The hydroponics bay of station hummed with the steady rhythm of nutrient pumps, a sound that had become Elsa's only companion over the past 6 months. She pressed her palm against the transparent aluminum viewport, watching Earth's pale blue dots suspended in the void, 37 light-years away. Her other hand rested on her abdomen, where a life grew against all probability and protocol. The pregnancy was impossible by every metric. The deep space radiation should have rendered her sterile. The contraceptive implant mandated for all colonization crew should have prevented conception. The cryogenic suspension during the 12-year journey should have eliminated any possibility of viable embryonic development. Yet here she was, 3 months along, utterly alone on a station designed for 50. Elsa's reflection stared back at her from the viewport, dark circles under her eyes, skin pale from recycled air, auburn hair tied back in a regulation bun that no longer mattered. She was a xenobiologist, trained to study alien ecosystems, not to face this peculiar crisis. The rest of her crew had evacuated 8 weeks ago when the Kepler plague swept through the station, a silicon-based pathogen from the planet below that attacked human neural tissue. Somehow, inexplicably, she'd been immune. The communications array had failed 3 days after the last shuttle departed. She'd been trying to repair it ever since, but the damage ran deeper than her engineering knowledge could fix. Her supply situation was stable, enough food, water, and oxygen for another year if she rationed carefully, but the isolation was crushing. The baby complicated everything. How could she raise a child alone on a dying station? What kind of life would that be? The proximity alarm jolted her from her thoughts. Elsa's heart hammered as she rushed to the command module. The holographic display showed a ship approaching, not the expected relief vessel, but something older, a Mark VII colonial transport that should have been decommissioned decades ago. She watched as it executed a perfect docking maneuver with the station's primary airlock. Protocol demanded she remain in the command center, weapon ready, until she could verify the visitor's identity. Elsa retrieved the plasma pistol from its locker, hands trembling slightly as she checked the charge. The airlock cycled with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The man who emerged was tall and lean, moving with the careful economy of someone who'd spent years in variable gravity. His face was weathered, marked by a scar that ran from his left temple to his jaw. He wore a patched flight suit bearing the insignia of the Titan Defense Corps, a unit that had been disbanded after the Outer Colonies War ended 15 years ago. His dark eyes swept the corridor with practiced vigilance before settling on her. Station Kepler 442, this is Harry Castellan, formerly Major Castellan TDC, he said, raising his empty hands. Received your distress beacon. Permission to come aboard. Elsa lowered the weapon slightly, confusion mixing with relief. I didn't send a distress beacon. The communications array is dead. Harry's expression didn't change. The beacon is automated, triggered when life support falls below optimal crew capacity for more than 60 days. I was in the neighborhood. The pause suggested that was a significant oversimplification. Over the next hour, as they sat in the station's galley over synthesized coffee, the story emerged. Harry had been living as a salvage operator for the past decade, combing the debris fields and abandoned stations left behind by the colony rush. His ship's AI had detected the beacon and calculated he was the nearest human within response range. He'd made the 3-week journey expecting to find a skeleton crew, not a solitary pregnant woman. The medical bay should have full diagnostic capability, Harry said, his gaze dropping briefly to her midsection before snapping back to her face with rigid military courtesy. We should verify the pregnancy's viability, check for radiation damage, genetic anomalies. Elsa felt her throat tighten. I've run the scans. Everything appears normal, which makes no sense given the circumstances. Nothing about this situation makes sense, Harry agreed. He leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight. You're immune to a silicon-based pathogen that killed or drove off your entire crew. You conceived despite multiple biological and technological safeguards. You survived alone in deep space for 2 months. Either you're the luckiest person in human history or something else is at work." "What do you mean?" Harry stood, packing to the viewport. "During the war, we encountered things in the outer colonies, phenomena that couldn't be explained by conventional science. The official reports were sanitized, but those of us who were there knew better. Life adapts in ways we don't understand yet. Maybe the pathogen didn't just kill. Maybe it changed you, made you immune, triggered something dormant in your biology." The implications sent a chill through Elsa. She'd examined her own blood under the microscope, found nothing unusual, but Harry was suggesting changes at a level beyond her equipment's detection capability. "I can't raise a child here," she said quietly. "The station systems are degrading. In 6 months, a year at most, life support will fail. Even if I make it to term, what then?" Harry turned back to face her, and something shifted in his expression, a softening around the eyes that seemed to cost him effort. "My ship has full life support, medical facilities, supplies for extended deep space operation. There's room for 2, 3, once the baby comes." "You're offering me passage." Elsa felt a flutter of hope, quickly tempered by suspicion. "Why, what's your angle?" "No angle," Harry's jaw tightened. "I've spent 15 years alone, Castellan, running from ghosts, from memories, from responsibility. I've watched good people die because I made the wrong calls, because I wasn't fast enough, smart enough, ruthless enough. I can't bring them back, but I can do this." The silence stretched between them. Elsa studied his face, seeing past the scar and the hardness to something deeper, a loneliness that mirrored her own, a need for purpose that transcended mere survival. "I don't need charity," she said finally. "It's not charity, it's—" Harry paused, seemed to wrestle with words. "Out here, alone in the dark, the old rules don't apply. We make our own. You need help. I can provide it. That's all that matters." Elsa felt tears prick her eyes, the first she'd allowed herself in weeks. The weight of her isolation, her fear for the child growing inside her, the impossible situation, it all threatened to overwhelm her. But she was a scientist, trained to observe and adapt. Harry Castellan was offering survival, not just for her but for her unborn child. The motivation was less important than the result. "I'm alone and pregnant," she said, the admission costing her pride but buying her honesty. Harry's expression softened further, and when he spoke, his voice carried a conviction that seemed to surprise even him. "That's it. From today you are my wife." Elsa blinked, startled. "What?" "Not legally, not romantically, not unless you want that someday." Harry's words came faster now, as if he'd made a decision and needed to articulate it before he lost his nerve. "But practically, functionally, partners. I'll protect you, provide for you and the child, help you raise it. In return, you give me a reason to be more than just a ghost drifting through wreckage. A family, even if it's unconventional, even if it starts as a matter of survival." The proposal was absurd, unprecedented, utterly illogical. And yet, standing in the galley of a dying station, 37 light-years from Earth, Elsa found herself nodding. Because Harry was right. The old rules didn't apply out here. They would write their own. "Okay," she said, "partners." They spent the next 3 days preparing. Harry assessed the station's remaining resources, identifying what could be salvaged and loaded onto his ship. Elsa compiled her research data, the xenobiological samples that represented years of work. Together they worked with surprising efficiency, falling into a rhythm born of mutual need and complementary skills. On the 4th day, as Elsa took a final walk through the empty corridors, she felt the baby move for the first time, a flutter so slight she almost missed it. She stopped, hand pressed to her abdomen, and smiled despite everything. Life persisted. Life adapted. Life found a way. Harry was waiting at the airlock, her belongings already loaded. Ready. Elsa looked back one last time at the station that had been her prison and her sanctuary. Then she looked forward, toward the scarred veteran who'd become her improbable savior, her partner in the vast darkness. "Ready," she said. As Harry's ship undocked and turned toward the distant stars, Elsa watched station Kepler 442 recede into the black. They had no destination yet, no plan beyond survival. But they had each other, and the promise of new life, and the infinite possibilities of the universe stretching before them. It was enough. For now, it was more than enough.